Yeah, Jeff, with Mitchell Stevens coming back in the lineup, it's just what can you expect from him after missing so much time and it's only 11 games remaining?
Well, it's certainly you got to temper, any expectations, just with the fact how much time he's missed. It's hard to, roll back in your timing, all that stuff. What he does do is he's an energy type player, though, so I think he could provide energy regardless of the amount of time he missed. He's a natural centerman. And we're gonna play him at center. He can win faceoffs on the right side, but we just got to let him work his way into the games and see, if he can use these 11 games to kind of get himself a boost for next season.
And it is kind of important just to at least get some games in before the off season, so that's the time off isn't just longer.
Yeah, no, I think it's important, and we've talked about that there's in these games we have remaining, both individually and collectively, there's lots to be gained, and certainly the same would be true for him, and maybe more so. To be able to get into games and play and get that feeling back, I think it's important.
And just maintenance days again for Larkin and Ronick. Are they available tomorrow?
We anticipate both being available tomorrow.
Also, with just a little on Zadina playing when he was playing with on a line with Verana, and he's not really the primary shooter on that line. Is there any kind of adjustment for him in how he goes about things? Looking to set up more? Or,
I don't think Zadina's game should just be about shooting. I've said that for a long time now. It's hard to make it if you're just a one-trick pony in this league. You got to shoot like unbelievable, and so I think Zadina should and has the ability to do more than that. And ultimately, for him to be a real good player in this league, he's going to have a good give-go game. Something he's worked on since he's gone to pro. So in Verana's a heck of a passer too. Like he can make a lot of really nice passes. As you saw in the goal against Boston. So I think it's two offensive players with a responsible center who can make some plays as well. And I think their challenge is making sure that they're good enough defensively and that ultimately they win their shifts. And I think Zadina's game specifically over the last couple of games has been really good. I think a number of our young players have played really good. And he's one of them, and he's stopped on more pucks. He's won more puck battles, and as a result, I think he's been a real solid defensive player, and that's created offense. And the breakaway Verana had in the second period against Winnipeg is all because Z stops on a puck and wins the puck, and then he's able to bank it to Verana, and Verana goes in on a breakaway. So. I think there's got to be more to Z's game than just being a shooter. And him and I've talked about that from day one he's got here, and I think there is more to his game. And so I don't think it's an adjustment per se. I think it's just a continued growth process for him.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
Max Boltman.
Just to follow up on that, do you obviously when you have complementary guys like that, you mentioned they need to be able to play defense and all that. Do you tell Zadina you're going to need to be a better puck retriever on this line than you might need to when you're on the Rasmussen Ernie line?
Yeah, for sure. There's certain responsibilities you'd have on some lines, that maybe is different on a different line. So it was for sure we talk about specific responsibilities. In those guys' case, I've told both of them I want to be able to play them together. Then it pairs two offensive players together. I think it can. I think there's it can accentuate both players' abilities, but they have to be accountable defensively, and I think they've done a pretty decent job of it the last couple of games. But yes, puck retrieving, the accountable defensively probably is on any line, but specifically when you have two guys that are offensive players, I think it's real important that they remind themselves of that.
And then with Larkin, is it these maintenance days kind of just touch and go, see how he feels, or is it more of an overarching plan of he's gonna maybe practice a little less down the stretch?
I think there's wear and tear on players as you go through the course of the year, and Hronek and Larkin are dealing with some things that ultimately our medical staff, most importantly, I guess, makes the decision. It's best to provide rest on those days, and every day is a little bit different. Some of it depends on how each guy feels. I didn't go into the day knowing for sure they'd be out or wouldn't be. I knew it was a potential, and the medical staff comes to me and says that's best. Now there's always the chance the medical staff comes to me tomorrow and says that's best. I don't anticipate that, but it might be the case. So we take it on a day-by-day basis right now.
Were you able to watch any of the Frozen Four yesterday?
Not enough, but I'll watch some of it. I did not stay up for the late game. I watched a little bit of the early part of it. But that's four good teams and four real good coaches, and it's interesting. It's been a long time since I've been in that spot, not in the Frozen Four, but just in the NCAA tournament, and the one game elimination is a game 7. And I remember watching Boston and St. Louis in that game 7 in the finals a couple of years ago, and that's what it's like. And everybody reacts a little bit different in those situations. That game that I remember with Boston, St. Louis, they both kind of felt each other out the first period, and they had played 6 previous games. So now you're going into a game, and it's hard. And sometimes you have your best game, sometimes you don't. Sometimes the bounces go your way, sometimes it doesn't. It's a hard thing, and it's hard, but it's also what makes it really exciting.
Did Mazur, one of your prospects, make it pretty physically involved the whole game?
I've heard from our management group that he's had a real good year and been able to see him a little bit. So last summer at the World Junior stuff, and then watched him yesterday. He was certainly one guy that he's noticeable out there for sure because of how hard he plays, and seems like he has a good skill set and how hard he plays. So in due time, all these guys have the opportunity to show what they are. Once they decide that it's the right time for them to turn pro. But in the meantime, as a guy who watched it, I wasn't glued to every second of the game, but as a guy who watched it, I thought Mazur definitely had an impact on the game.
Thanks.
Yep.
Bob Duff.
Yeah, Jeff had an NHL coach tell me one time when he got hired by a team that he was looking forward to his first losing streak because he said that's when you find out the real character of your players, when things aren't going their way. When someone like Stevens goes through this where, a serious injury, are there things you as a coach kind of learn about players in that situation? Because obviously that's about as adverse as it's going to get for them.
Yeah, we've got a number of guys over the last couple of years here go through some kind of long-term stuff, and it's hard. It's really hard, and you do, I think most of the guys have, they didn't get to this level without having a certain determination and will, and certainly that challenges that determination and will anytime you have a heart injury, and in his particular case, it's one of those injuries that was really, really difficult because there's only so much you can do in rehab. But where you find out about their compete and their work ethic is in those skates, when they come on after practice and things like that. And I'm not generally doing that, but I'm talking to our coaches, and certainly he's been somebody who is at the upper echelon in terms of his work ethic in those situations. He's been great, so yes, I think you do find out more about people as they go through adversity than when things are good, and he's handled the adversity well. So I'm excited for him. Excited he gets a chance to play. I know it's been hard grind here, and I'm excited he gets a chance to play.
Just along those injury lines, I've never seen any follow-up on Calvin Pickard since he was hurt in Pittsburgh. What is the prognosis for him? Is he going to get back in the action this season?
I don't know the answer, whether he'll get back in the action or not. He's been out, obviously, and he's doing his rehab in Grand Rapids where his family is. So I don't know the answer and if he'll get back or not. They're running, he's running out of runway down there too. So we'll see.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, those are all the questions we had today for Coach Blashill.